Have you ever felt overwhelmed or stressed out at work? Or as you were constantly battling workplace stressors and burnout? Do you struggle to find a balance between work and personal life? Did you know that mental health issues like anxiety and depression can significantly impact productivity and morale in the workplace? Have you ever wondered how your organization compares when it comes to addressing mental health in the workplace? And how we can create a supportive working environment for all? Join me after the intro for a conversation with a very special friend with whom we will answer these and many more questions. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's start. Hi, I'm Rossana D, and this is Forgive and Thrive, a podcast where we explore what thriving in life means and how we can achieve it, irrespective of our past, current condition, and expectations that those around us or society in general may have. Let's go. Welcome to the Forgive and Thrive show. 5 years ago, I hit a wall. Burnout wasn't just a buzzword, it became my reality. Every day felt like a marathon with no finish line in sight. My body ached, my energy depleted, my motivation waned. I distinctly remembered that sense of drowning, my chest squashed by an invisible mountain that limited the air to flow in my lungs. The sleepless nights spent solidifying in my mind lists of everything that I had to remember to do the day after. And then the worst part of all, going through and ruminating on everything that had happened at work that felt just unjust, unfair, illogical, and not sensible. 5 years ago, I burned out. But as I always say, I didn't do it on my own, in the safety of my home. It happened at work. A new research performed by Mental Health First Aid England that was released in February 2024 revealed that almost 1 in 3 employees have experienced at least one form of microaggression or discriminatory behavior in the past 6 months. And almost 1 in 5 said that these experiences had a negative outcome on their mental health, with 1 in 7 considering quitting their job as a result, and 1 in 7, over 1 in 7, also said that this microaggression left them feeling as they couldn't be their old self at work. These numbers are concerning and still show that there is a lot to be done on this front before achieving a situation where each one of us feels safe and has the opportunity to thrive at work. So, as we start our 4th year together on the month that is internationally dedicated to mental health, and even more so on the 1st of May, which is associated in many countries with the International Workers' Day, we want to combine these two topics and discuss about mental health in the workplace. And we dive into this extremely important topic in a conversation with a friend of the show, Anthea Armar. Anthea is an inspirational speaker and a true embodiment of the power of positive thinking. Driven by faith, her track record in facilitating change in organizations and individuals is proof that her words have the ability to empower and build confidence, clarity, and commitment in others. She utilizes her 20 years experience working with organizations like Ernst & Young, Metropolitan Police, Google Digital Garage, and many others to affect change in people, processes, and technology. Through her talks and workshops focused on developing leadership skills, Anthea has made a lasting impact on countless young people, entrepreneurs, and professionals across the globe. Hi, Anthea. Welcome back to the Forgive and Try show. I'm excited to have you once again on the show and extremely grateful that you took the time to be with us once more.
Yes, hello, and thank you for having me back. It literally feels like I was here just the other day. So time has completely flown, and I'm excited for today's conversation.
Absolutely. It was at the beginning of the first year. Here we are, starting year 4, believe it or not. So it has been quite a journey for me, but I'm sure it was quite a journey for you as well. And
Mm.
I would like to start once more with you. So can you remind us a little bit of who you are, how you started, and what happened since last time?
That's a loaded question. I'll keep it as brief as I can so we can get stuck into the conversation. I think in terms of, what I want to share, I guess, about myself, and also linked to our original conversation, I think where I am today stemmed from the decisions I made when I was a young person. When I was going into university and realized that that's not where I wanted to be, but because of pressure from society, family, culture, you end up making decisions that you think that other people know what's best for you. And so that put me in a position where I had such challenges whilst I was at university, mental health specifically. I was suicidal. I was very much isolated, even though I had friends. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And I struggled on a day-to-day basis. And I think the hardest part of that was not knowing that I could trust anyone with those feelings, or even really knowing what those feelings were to articulate them to someone else. And I think off of the back of that and all of the challenges that I had, I really made a decision that I wasn't going to do or say yes to things that weren't things I wanted to do. Because if I'm going to suffer, it's going to be because of something I really wanted to do. And so that led me down a path that wasn't always welcome or accepting to people in my circle. I moved into contracting quite early, and began my career as a trainer and worked my way through learning and development and had that 20-year plus career in training. Got to the point where I was moving from delivery and being the one who was implementing the strategies and really thinking about the people because I'd spent so much time delivering. I got to understand the people and the humans that I was working with and how difficult change can be. And so I made it my life's mission to get to a position where I can influence that and help them more in terms of what they do. So that, in a nutshell, is the career that I had, which is around learning and development. Now, interestingly, I believe it's 2019, I woke up with this question: if you were to die today, what would you leave behind? I was like, what did I watch last night? Like where did this question come from? Because it was so out of the blue. I had no idea what was going on. And it took a little while to start sinking in and get me to reflect. But when it came to the pandemic and the time that we met, I was in that transition phase of trying to make my life more meaningful. The words that I used, the presence that I have, the skill set that I have, and using that in a way to encourage others. And so my work around then has been around coaching, training, facilitating, public speaking, mentoring, really, I would say focused on three C's, which is boosting confidence, helping people to get clarity in what it is that they want, and also building the community and the commitment to really move forward and bring people along that will help them achieve that. And so in the last few years since we last spoke, I've been doing that on stages, in workshops, in small rooms, and large places, like anywhere I can go, you will find me talking and trying to speak life and encouragement into people.
That is absolutely beautiful. I love that. And thank you for starting from mental health because it has become a sort of fashionable word with the pandemic.
Mhm.
We have become a little bit more easy on opening up about this topic, but there is still a little bit of stigma, I would say, in completely be transparent and talking about mental health, especially when it comes to work. We live in the reputation economy, and reputation is everything. And there is still the stigma that puts a black cloud on our reputation, a black mark on our CV. If we say, well, we have suffered or we are still going through some of these challenges today. So I would like to go straight into this main topic.
Mhm.
Starting with what a mentally healthy place or workplace is, because someone said perception is everything. And before I burn out, I had the perception that my workplace was, generally speaking, a healthy workplace.
Mm.
and then I burn out. And since then, I start noticing that there are many other people that actually are not doing well. As long as it was just me, I could say, well, okay, perhaps it was me. The problem was on my side only. But when there are more than one person getting sick in the same place or having struggles in the same place, I would argue that perhaps that workplace is not ideal or conducive of mental health. So what are the aspects that we should really look at that may point to unhealthy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a good place to start because, and I suppose the first thing to really say is that everybody has mental health. So this thing where there are people with mental health and there are people who don't have it, we all have it because mental health is essentially our capacity to think, feel, and behave in a way that enhances our quality of life. The challenge comes from when we are unable to regulate those three things. So there is an unbalance somewhere in either our thoughts, our feelings, or our behaviors. And because of that, that then leads to a potential disorder. And the disorder that it leads to does not mean that we are, going to walk down the street butt naked, screaming at the top of our lungs, because people think that when you have a mental health disorder, it's this really, over the top, everyone can see that you have a mental health issue type of thing. And unfortunately, some people are like that. That's the extreme side of the mental health spectrum. However, if you have an inability to regulate those things, it can show up in anxiety. It can show up in stress. It can show up in depression. It can show up in isolation. So these are things that happen to us on a daily basis that we tend to ignore. And so the first thing really is to get a clear understanding is that we all have mental health. Our challenge is to ensure that we remain balanced. And when we start to see the signals that we are unbalanced in our and how we think, feel, or behave, that something needs to be done to correct that. Now, when it comes to the workplace, if you are in a place where, whether from a home perspective, you are starting to feel the stress, the anxiety, or anything like that, or work is contributing or creating those things in you, and you don't have a safe space to talk about it, to evaluate it, and to put some form of plan into action to help you get regulated, it's an unhealthy workplace because everybody is human first. And there is this notion that as an employer, your only responsibility is to pay me for the hours that I've worked. Right. And so if I've had a bad day, I'm suffering from grief. As a woman, I have a really bad cycle. I have just broken up with my long-term partner. I'm going through a divorce. I've lost my child. Like, whatever it is, there is an expectation that we leave all of those things at the door when we get into work, whether that's virtually or in person. Whereas employers need to understand that regardless of what their position is or their status or their reputation within the organization, they are human first. And so if you don't create an environment for people to have some flexibility in meeting their needs so that they can effectively regulate their mental health, it's an unhealthy workplace. I don't have a manager I can talk to. I'm in a team who feels toxic. They don't seem to care about me. There are people who are trying to sabotage my work. When I come to work, people don't care about what I carry in there. They want me to get this work done. There are 6 people who are supposed to be on this team, yet we only have 3. And so I'm expected to just carry the workload. There is no trust. There is no respect. There are no boundaries. And so when you have those particular instances where you feel you have to choose work over your health, it's an unhealthy workplace. And if you're stressed, it's unhealthy. If and it's not unhealthy because you're stressed, it's unhealthy because you can't find ways to relieve the stress. Because the stress could be coming from outside of work. But if in the place that you're spending the most amount of time, you don't have a place to resolve that or to work through it or to be supported through it, it's not good for your mental health.
I love what you're saying about finding a place where it's safe to talk about what's going on. And in fact, I want to take this a little bit further, because when we talk about mental health, we say, for example, I burn out. So the weight of that issue is all on me, right? Nobody has burnout with me. I did it apparently on my own, but I know better than that. I know it didn't happen on my own. I know that there were situations that were not managed properly. So it's perhaps the language that we use not helping. And perhaps we need to find different ways to talk about mental health, and to think that they are more environmental than a personal struggle that I have between me and myself. I was reading a short article that reframed the word burnout as structural violence. And it might sound a little bit hard and
Yeah.
tough on people, right? But for the first time, I found a way that really resonated with me and really resonated with my experience. I was under a structure violence every day for years. And I wouldn't say that perhaps that is the one size fits all kind of definition, but perhaps the language of saying you have burnout is to reducing the problem to just one person issue. What do you think about it? And is there a better language that we can use?
I definitely think the language either helps or hinders a person's ability to understand what someone else's experience is. Labels have always been a problem because once you are labeled with something, you become the thing. You're no longer human, you are the thing. Oh, you are burnt out. You are a victim. You are stressed, you are anxious, like you are the thing. Forgetting that we are humans first. And we are human beings having a human experience. And some of the human emotions that we go through include anxiety, depression, stress, etc. So the language I think is useful for people who don't have the experience of it to find a way to relate to it. But there also needs to be a balance in the language used for people who are experiencing it. So if you say somebody is stressed, somebody who may have never gone through stress will have a better understanding about what that person might be going through. And there's a level of sympathy that they can offer. They must be, okay, so they're probably a bit tense, they're maybe running around, there's a bit of chaos going on, they're not quite organized, they're not quite focused. And so there's a level of sympathy that we can have for someone who might be in this labeled position. But when you are actually stressed yourself, you don't feel all of those things. All you feel is tension in your body. All you feel is the thoughts going around 7,000 miles an hour and never being able to pick one out to do anything with, which will help you reduce the stress. So you get even more stressed on the fact that you can't get yourself together. And then it becomes this self-blame game of why can't I do this? I'm not good enough, etc. And you put yourself into this vicious cycle. So the experiences two people have with the same thing are completely different based on whether they have personal experience of it or not. So that's why the language can sometimes be challenging, because if you're looking at it from the outside, oh, you're just stressed, take a warm bath, have a cup of hot chocolate or a glass of wine, watch your favorite movie, and you'll be fine in the morning. Like, it doesn't happen that way, because stress is accumulative. So you're stressed today, but it could have started in, November last year. But because it wasn't resolved or dealt with, it's now built up to the point that it's showing physically in your body and, psychologically in your mind. This idea of structural violence, there's so much in that. It's quite an interesting term. And I think when it comes to burnout is challenging because a lot of the time, even though there is an individual who experiences it, it is based on external factors, right? And this is this is a tricky one because there is an element of self-awareness that is needed because we have to understand that we have a choice in how we respond to everything. So the world is going to do what the world is going to do. People are going to do what they're going to do. We can have expectations. They may not meet them. However, how we then choose to respond to that is the thing that helps to keep us regulated. So if something happens at work, and I've been in a work bullying situation, and it was horrid, and I was ready to leave the job for it, a job I really loved, and eventually I did leave, and that was a choice that I made because I couldn't deal with having to come every day to a place where I was spending the majority of my time ridiculed, talked about, sabotaged even. And we talked earlier about reputation and my reputation, especially as somebody who is freelance and, my name, my brand, my reputation is everything. So for you to come and try to come after that, that insulted me on a different level. And that then closed off my ability to create interpersonal relationships with people, and it made me more guarded, and that wasn't the kind of person I wanted to be. So I think that when we're in these kinds of situations, it's twofold. Yes, it happens to us, but there are external factors that some of these we have the capacity, if we are self-aware enough, to not impact us, which then helps to keep us out of these places of burnout. The way in which we respond to the cost of living crisis, the way we respond to being isolated, with our COVID bubbles and all of that kind of thing, the way we respond to bullies at work, the way we respond to managers asking us to work 60 hours but paying us for 35. All of these things are external to us and can potentially lead us to burnout and lead us to having mental health disorders. But how do we respond to those things? And that's where our power comes from, in the ability to prevent us from having mental health disorders. It's not trying to change other people or the situation. The focus actually is on changing how we respond to it. And the reason I mention that is because even the label itself can make us feel a certain way if we choose to allow it to. If we choose that a label is whatever you're going to be, it may not be right, but I don't have to accept that label. And I can make a choice to explain and vocalize and articulate how I am so that other people can understand. That's a choice that you may want to make because it helps you feel better and helps you to educate people around you.
Thank you for stressing that because I think it's extremely important to recognize that there is, if you like, a responsibility on both sides. And even overcoming that burnout, you need to take your side of the responsibility. But then the other has to understand what you went through and have the compassion to come halfway, right? So talking about that, what are some of the, if you like, misconceptions or misunderstanding that as a society we have around mental health, especially in the workplace? And perhaps do you have ideas on how we can address them, perhaps?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are so many misconceptions. I think, just relating to something I said earlier, I think people don't understand that people have mental health disorders on a daily basis, right? There are statistics that show that 1 in 4 adults in the UK will have a mental health problem at some point in their life. But it's people's lack of understanding of what mental health disorders are that means they completely miss them in everyday working life. So you can't have a mental health disorder because you seem to be happy. You can't have a mental health disorder because you come to work every day. You can't have a mental health issue because you're really productive in your work. And what they don't understand is that these two things can happen simultaneously. I was depressed for 2 years and did not know it. I was a high performer, right? So I am managing programs. I am I am executing work. All of my projects are successful. I come in, I have a smile on my face. I laugh throughout the day. I get my work done. I'm doing stuff that is social, yet I'm depressed. So there is nothing on the surface to a degree that will ever indicate that somebody is or is not suffering from a mental health disorder. So the misconception that you only have a mental health disorder when you get to this really extreme stage needs to be just thrown away. And I think what it is that there is a necessity for, again, people to remember that we're human first. Right? People think that when you have a mental health disorder, when you've gone off sick, oh, you're overreacting. People just believe that it's you being part of the trend. Everyone's talking about mental health, so you must be jumping on the mental health train. And they don't realize, as I said before, it's I can't regulate right now. It could be work that's forcing me to have an inability to regulate. It could be my partner. It could be my finances. It could be my spiritual life. It could be my environment. So there are all of these different dimensions that could impact my ability to regulate. And so people just tend to think that you're overreacting a lot of the time. You just need extra time off. And in a way, we have to be forgiving. And I know we'll come back to forgiveness at some point because of the name of the show. We have to be forgiving that everybody else is trying to regulate too. And sometimes they project onto others some of the challenges that they can't regulate in themselves. It's not fair that you've gone off for burnout. I'm burnt out. I just haven't told anyone and I don't know how to manage it. So I'm upset that you got the help that I needed and I don't know how to regulate that. And so I'm just angry and I'm abusive and I'm not compassionate. I'm not kind. And it's not because of anything that you've done. It's because I have an inability to regulate. And so in the workplace, the thing that's probably most important is remembering everyone is human first. And we as human beings were made to be in community, and it's important to have relationships with the people that we work with. I mean, I can tell you, hands up, I've been into many different work environments where I'm like, I'm just here to do my job. I'm clocking in and I'm clocking out. I don't want to talk to nobody. I'm going home. And that's because maybe my issue, it could be because the environment didn't feel like these people genuinely cared about who I was as a person. It was more all trying to get some information so we know what buttons to push because people are evil and they can be evil, right? Because if they can't regulate, they project. And so what I didn't know at the time is that a lot of the bullying and all of those things were never about me. They were never about me. They were about each of those individuals and the impact my presence had on their ability to regulate. And so if we can start by getting to know people, coming from a very curious place, getting to know people to understand who they are as human beings, understand what their boundaries are, respect them, communicate with them as human beings, don't need to be in competition with them. And no, you're not always going to find a BFF at work, but surely there is one person that you can connect with on an emotional, human level that if you get into a particular situation on both sides. Rosanna, I've noticed that you've been a bit quiet lately. You haven't been speaking up in meetings much. Do you want to go for a coffee? Is there anything you want to talk about? And also, on your side, oh, Anthea, do you know what? I've been struggling these last few weeks. I just don't know what to do, and I don't know who else I can talk to. I may not have the solution, but the fact that you're able to at least share that with me means that we now have a shared problem. And I can start without having anything that I need to regulate or being in your position. I can now come from a better place to not only understand what you're going through, but also try to find ways to help and support you because, in a way, I'm detached from it. And so, therefore, I can be your champion and your cheerleader and help you get back to who you have the full potential to be. Because ultimately, when I work with people, I'm like, I just want to see you win. Like I want you to be your full potential. And so if you're ever falling short of that, and I can help you get to where you want to be, I'm there. I'd like to help. But if you're projecting your stuff onto me, it makes it difficult to be kind and compassionate unless you make a choice to detach yourself from the person in a way and what their challenges are, to know that they're not about you, and to respond with love, compassion, kindness, and think, what is this person going through that this is how they show up? How can I give them a space for them to really reflect and understand what that is doing to other people? Because you may be hurting, but you're now hurting other people because you don't have anywhere to find a solution. Is there somewhere that we can go? Is there someone you can talk to? Is there something that you can do to help you? Because if we help you help yourself, it helps all of us be in an environment where we're open and can discuss and support and encourage each other.
Let me start saying that I would love to work in that organization with you, where, there is that safe space. And I'm not saying this as a joke. I'm actually working with my organization because I can see that as a real healthy, safe space where everybody can thrive. And I might just be a dreamer here, but I think it's extremely important. So thank you very much for stressing that point. But that brings me to two main points. One is personally, how can I assess where I am and recognize that something is going off track? And the other is collectively, how can we create that environment, safe environment, where if someone doesn't feel at their best, they are safe to come and to talk. And for everybody that is in a better space to recognize that something is wrong. You started with that example, say, well, Sana, I see that you are not talking. So what would be the signs perhaps to look for, and how can we monitor each other I know it's a bit of a question.
Don't worry, I'm pulling it all in. I'm pulling it all in. Yeah, and I think this is important because personally, I believe self-awareness is the key to a happy life. Not to say that being self-aware means that you won't have a crappy life, right? It's not to say that being self-aware means you won't go through trials and tribulations and challenges. Self-awareness allows you to challenge those things, to correct those things, and to get yourself back on a path that you want to be on quicker. When you are not self-aware, you just exist in your problems. You remain in anxiety, you remain in depression, you remain in the not good enough, you remain in perfectionism, you remain in burnout, you remain in all of these things because there is not the self-awareness to know why you feel a certain way and where you would rather be, which then allows you to bridge the gap, which is to take the action to move to another place that you would prefer to be in. And so, for every individual to have moments of reflection is going to be the key for them to assess their current state, to create something that they want in their future, and then to take the steps that are going to get them there. So, an example is journaling. I know that's a big thing. So, depending on the kind of person you are, how often do you journal? How often do you have an honest conversation with yourself? Because a lot of people won't say how they feel to other people, and they sometimes won't even say out loud to themselves what it is that they're feeling. So if you can't say it out loud, and this could even just be doing mirror work, standing in a mirror, looking at yourself and just saying, do you know what, I'm not happy today. I am stressed. I'm so fed up. And then asking yourself why. Why? Curiosity will always get you towards an answer. So if you're curious, why do I feel sad today? Ask yourself the question, if every single thing in my life was taken care of, bills, everything, and I was choosing to come to this place of work, would I? I get that money is an incentive, totally get it. But we have to really be clear about what things are meaningful and purposeful in our life. If we are choosing to go into an environment that generally we would not choose on any other given day, except for the fact that it rewards us financially, we are inviting problems into our life because every day we're choosing to remain unfulfilled. Every day we are choosing to go into a place that does not spark joy or creativity in our life. And so if you start with that question, if everything else was sorted and I could choose whether to go into this place of work to do this particular job with these people in this way, would I still want it? If the answer is yes, why? If the answer is no, why? We need to understand our why. Why am I doing this? Because if I get to a stage where all of these other things are great, like I said, that job that I was being bullied in, I had a fantastic manager. I loved the work I was doing. My manager was so great. She saw so much potential in me. She was challenging me all the time, completely getting me out of my comfort zone. We had such open conversations about where she saw me going, what challenges I felt I had, and what support she could offer. My team were a nightmare. They were bullies. And that was the reason I left, something that would have been meaningful to me to do that. I hadn't asked myself the whys. And if I had, potentially I would have stayed there and found a way to resolve that issue because my why was stronger. So if we can take that time to ask ourselves that, get through all of the whys, do a spider diagram or whatever it is, but really understand, why are we doing this? Does this fulfill some purpose in my life? Does it keep me creative? Does it keep me, is it the people I enjoy? But all of those things, could you still find that somewhere else that you would rather be? Just because we have it here and there's a part of it that we enjoy, doesn't mean we enjoy all of it, but it also doesn't mean that we can't find that somewhere else. So then once we've assessed that, we can then start to look at, okay, so if I could do anything that I wanted to, what would that be? There's a question I love, which is, if the answer is yes, what would you love to do? And when you start mapping that out, you then realize that this is not it, or this is it, or maybe it's somewhere in between. So I have my current point, which is my current state of, where I am. I've accepted that the work that I'm doing, the place I'm in, the people I'm working with, the environment, the culture, the leadership, the values of the organization, whatever that looks like for you, is no longer aligned. I've now created this vision of where it is that I really want to be. And so the next thing I need to do is bridge the gap. How do I get from where I am into a place where I want to thrive? Well, if I want an open and transparent leadership team who create a culture where I feel safe enough emotionally, psychologically, to have conversations about how I'm feeling at any given time, to know that I'm going to be supported if I'm having challenges, to know that there's flexibility when I need to have a day where I'm just like, I can't cope with the world today. Why don't I go and find that? Rather than expecting the place that I'm currently in is not supporting any of that to change. Because my response is within my control. How they operate is not. And yes, I've put time and energy and effort into this organization. Yes, I've helped them to succeed, but I need to thrive. I'm a human being with a vision, with a purpose, with a calling, and I need to fulfill that. And when I'm not working towards that, I'll never be happy, really. I'll never be deep down, I'll never really be satisfied and happy. So, what is the place that I really want to be in? And how can I take that leap of faith to know that I will find another job and that the place and the space and the people that I really desire to work with are out there? And I'm not saying this as this kind of like woo-woo type of stuff. I have manifested this. I've prayed on having specific types of people I work with, specific environments. And again, because I run my own business, that can sometimes be challenging because I'm not an employee. But I've prayed for certain things because I'm very clear about where I want to be, somewhere that I'm valued, somewhere I can have open discussions, whether they're difficult or not, somewhere that I can contribute my gifts, my skills, my creativity, and somewhere that I can thrive and still pursue my own my own thing within that space. And I've created those spaces in some of the clients that I'm working with. And it's a joy and a pleasure to work with them because we're so aligned in so many ways. But if I'm not clear on what that is, how can I ever have it? I will end up staying in a place that is keeping me below my potential and having mental health issues, disorders follow me around like a lonely puppy because the environment and the lack of self-fulfillment inside of me is inviting it all of in. Um, I'm hopeful that answered your question, but I wanted to give a kind of rounded answer in terms of this is where that power of choice comes in. In life can be awful, and I do not downplay or negate any experience anybody has had. But the power that comes from accepting that you cannot change people and you cannot change what the world throws at you, but you can change how you respond to it is liberating. And it gives you a freedom to dream bigger than you've ever dreamed before and to change your life, literally, because you are now moving in alignment with the kind of things, the people, the places, and the spaces that you will thrive in. And when you thrive, mental health issues you can bounce back from that inability to regulate. It will happen, but the ability to bounce back happens quicker when you're in the right space.
Mm. You have the resilience to come back and do what you're meant to do. So
Exactly.
I love that, and I believe that that was the message I was meant to hear today. Uh, so very much. You all have already impacted one person. It is very, very hard, right? Going that path though, because um, sometimes we resist change.
Mm.
We get so attached to what we have and where we are. And I can see with my organization, I love my organization, and I found it very hard to let it go. And as a matter of fact, I want to see that organization to thrive further and even more than it's doing. So I'm trying to advocate for better mental health policies and resources and everything in between. And it's tough because, as you said, you cannot change people. You can only help them developing their sensitivity towards certain topics. So that is extremely slow. And for someone who is impatient, as I am, that's tough. Do you have an advice, a suggestion on how we can individually advocate for a better environment at work, for a safe environment?
There's two things that come to mind. The first is partially based on what you were saying before. The question that came to my mind as you were speaking is that your responsibility? The same way an organization, okay, so let's be frank, an organization exists to make profit. Even a not-for-profit makes profit, it just doesn't keep it. Right? So every business exists to make money. Otherwise, it's not a business. So that is their number one priority, to stay in business. And the only way to stay in business is to keep making money and to profit. So their responsibility is to ensure that certain boxes are filled within the organization that meet a certain level of productivity that enable them to keep making that money. That's their responsibility as an organization. On a human level, it's to ensure that the people who sit in those boxes are reaching their full potential. Not all organizations take on the human responsibility aspect. So, the same way that an organization is responsible for its own revenue, as an employee, sometimes the challenge that we have is we create a hierarchy when technically no hierarchy exists. An employee and employer relationship is exactly that. It's a relationship, and all relationships are equal. You are not more important to me or important than me because you pay me. Why? Because I understand my value. I understand that if I did not come in to do this work, that if I didn't care about the work that I did, your business wouldn't make money. I also understand that if I decide to take 6 days off leave and you can't cope anymore, you can get rid of me and put someone else in the box. So is it my responsibility to forgo my mental health, my value, my worth to help a business succeed who doesn't have the same level of responsibility back to me as an employee? Right. And that is a rhetorical question. So don't worry about answering, but that is for anyone who's out here is who, because I know many people and I was definitely one of them. I love this job. I'm literally, on the verge of burnout, cannot cope working the ridiculous hours. I remember having to put in a request to one of the business change managers that I was working with to say, can I expense a taxi home because I was there till 11 p.m. that day and I started at 7 a.m. But because I needed to get all of this work. Why did I need to get all of the work done? Why is it my responsibility that the organization doesn't recruit enough people? Why is it that my plans, my personal plans, my life, my ability to create life outside of these four walls now become something of sacrifice to help the business keep succeeding? And so this is why I ask that question around whose responsibility is it? We have to consider ourselves first, because if we are not in the best position we can be, we will not do that business any justice. And if that business is not helping us be the best that we can be, they are not doing us any justice. And that relationship no longer works. So that's the first thing. Do you want to comment on that before I move on? Okay.
That's so very true. That's another thing that I needed to hear today.
Okay, this is all for you, Rosanna. To all of the audience listening, thank you for your time, but this isn't a Rosanna, a Rosanna show today. And I think the reason that I started with that is because everything links back to what are we here to do? Like I just sometimes have these reflections like I woke up today, I have breath in my lungs, the sun is not shining because it's England. I'm going out into the world, I come across all of these people navigating their own lives, going into different places. I'm like, what are we here to do? What are we doing? Like, what is our purpose? What are we here to do? It is not to be in an environment where people make you forget who you are. I can unequivocally tell you that is the case. If you are in a working environment where anyone makes you feel less than, two options: leave or tell them and make a change. So this comes back to your question around advocating. So for mental health, and mental health is not just about burnout, stress, your workload, time management, and all of those things. It's your identity within the organization, your worth, your value, and how your organization champions you within that organization to grow through the ranks, to your skill set, and how you can encourage and support others and help other people rise up through the ranks as well. So if you feel like you don't have a safe space, you are working with a team who are just not nice people, you've got a manager who doesn't seem to care. One of the things that gets thrown around a lot is a toxic environment, right? And toxic is not toxic for everyone. So let's be clear about that. Toxic is not toxic for everyone. There are certain, if it's toxic, it means it's misaligned. You are not in the right place. It's not that necessarily the people need to change because they could be enjoying their life. If I go into an environment as a bully, as someone is being bullied, I didn't enjoy going to work. They loved it. They had fun. They went for lunch. They met up. They talked about their personal lives. They supported each other in their work. They knew what they were doing and going on holiday. I had none of that because that just was not the environment for me. And unfortunately, the majority of people can influence the environment that you're in, but it starts from the top down. So if you are somebody who wants to make changes in the environment that you are in, you've decided not to leave and you want to advocate, you need to start from the top. You need to book a meeting with the CEO, right? If you really want change, you have to be bold about it. You have to be courageous about it. It's not that I'm going to tell my team. It's not that I'm going to tell my manager. It's not that I'm going to go to HR. I want a meeting with the CEO. I'm going to tell you this means more to me than my job. I'm going to come and tell you exactly how things are. And if you decide to dismiss me, it reminds me that this is not the place for me. If you decide to listen to me, then it means you were not aware of what was going on. And we now have an opportunity to pave a new way for this organization to build a culture and to exist that supports people. right? So for me, it's a win-win situation. But I really do think you have to be bold and courageous in your advocacy because no one who is experiencing what you're experiencing cares enough, otherwise something would have been done about it already. It starts from leadership. How do your leaders come across? How transparent, how open are they? How do they include you? How inclusive are they in terms of the direction, the vision, and what their expectations are? What agreements do you make? Because there are expectations, but not everyone makes agreements. You might expect me to work for 60 hours and pay me for 40, but my friend, I don't agree with that. I want to be paid those extra 20 hours. And if not, I'm not going to work. And if the whole organization crumbles, that's not my responsibility. It's your responsibility to have everything in place in order to make your business earn that money. And I have friends who are supposed to be in teams of 10 and they're operating in 3. And when they go on leave, they're expecting someone else to carry their load. How? They don't have the support. But as long as we keep doing these things, we're sending a message to the management, to the leadership to say that actually, if we push people hard enough and they care enough, they will compromise all of their values, they will compromise all of their boundaries to help us succeed. So, whose responsibility is that really?
That is the question that I will be asking this afternoon, I guess. Because it's a fantastic point that you make here. Thank you very much for this lesson. It was exactly what I needed to hear today. Going ahead and looking at the future, where do you see mental health, especially at work, going? Do we have an opportunity here to really create that safe space where everybody can thrive and be safe to talk? Are we going in that direction? Do we have enough sensitivity in place and compassion in place?
I think social media has played a big role in exposing the state of organizations. And again, it's twofold. We have organizations starting to really understand. So if we take a step back, in my learning and development career, so learning and development has always been underrated. When organizations think of ROI, return on investment, they want to spend £10 and get 20 back. Now, when it comes to products, I'm going to invest in these materials, we're going to sell this product, we get the money back, we get profit. I'm going to invest in, setting up this service, we go and deliver it, we get paid, we've got profit. Training and education and knowledge is invaluable. But because it can't be quantified, a lot of organizations don't invest in it. And so, because there is no return on investment tangible immediately when it came to training, I always struggled to get training to be taken seriously and to be implemented on a regular basis. It was, oh my gosh, everything's gone wrong. We need to train. No, you train so that nothing goes wrong. And it's the same with mental health. There is no immediate return on investment, although they're starting to get some statistics around increase in productivity. There's, I think it's 3 trillion that's lost due to mental health because of depression, anxiety, lost working days, etc. globally. 3 trillion, even 1 trillion. Like, if you could have that money back, that would be every business profited. But if you start by investing in the people to ensure that they come to work as their best selves every day, then they are likely to do better at whatever it is that they do because they don't have any distractions. They're able to regulate. So, organizations who are starting to really get to grips with this are starting to put things in place, even though it costs them money. They will eventually start to reap the benefits of having a workforce who are dedicated and committed and have created a culture that they want to come in and enjoy and thrive in.
Mm.
The other side of that is the employees and the need to be more vocal, because it's all good saying organizations need to create this space for us, but what are we doing to show them that we need it? Are we still working those 60 hours when we're only being paid for 35? Are we still working on the weekends when we shouldn't be? Are we still taking our laptops on holiday because we don't want to have too many emails to come back to? If employees are not setting boundaries and saying it is not okay, why would employers make any changes? It's twofold. If I, and this is in terms of anything that we do in life, if I don't stand for something, there's that saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. But the message that you give when you don't stand up for yourself or even stand up for others is that it's okay. It's okay that someone is bullying me. No, it's not. It's okay that you're underpaying me. No, it's not. It's okay that I have nowhere to turn or someone to talk to. No, it's not. But the longer we just sweep those things under the carpet and just say, it's my problem, I have to deal with it, I'll just firm it and just keep pushing and I'm sure it will get better. We're not waving any red flags to say that there is a problem here. So organizations can only do so much. It's for the people who work for those organizations to really speak up and say, this is what I'm experiencing. And I know not everybody's comfortable with vulnerability. I'm not. It's taking me a long time to get comfortable with saying, even to close friends, I'm not okay. Like I'm struggling right now. And it's not because I necessarily want their help. I just want a safe space to be able to say, I don't know what I'm doing in my life. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I feel this way. I just feel off. And even being able to have somewhere to say that is quite liberating to know that, oh, someone knows and I'm not judged and I can still get on with my life. And then I have someone to talk to if I need to. So I think it's moving in the right direction, but it does require action from both sides. And again, it comes back to mutual responsibility. If you think of an organization as a shepherd and the employee is a sheep, the shepherd's responsibility is to ensure that all of those sheep are eaten, well fed, taken care of, and all of that stuff, right? And the responsibility of the sheep is to follow the instructions of the shepherd and make sure that they're doing what they've been asked to do in its most simplest nature. If the shepherd is doing what the shepherd should be doing, the sheep are doing what the sheep would be doing, we all have lamb.
Mm. Nice analogy. And with that, I would like to take you to the main question, the forgive and drive, and how forgiveness and self-forgiveness, to start with, can help us moving away, perhaps accepting the fact that the situation we have been in is not conducive of our mental health, and we need to change. We need to perhaps refocus what we want to do.
Mm, forgiveness. Ooh. Yeah, forgiveness is a biggie. And it is twofold, like you say. It's forgiving others and it's forgiving ourselves. I recently had a conversation with one of my cousins, actually, and we were talking about forgiveness. And I think what the biggest challenge is okay, twofold, right? So, one, I can't forgive you because you haven't met my expectation. Two, I can't forgive myself for being in a relationship with somebody, whether it's work, platonic, business, friend, like whatever it is, with somebody who doesn't meet my expectations. So I've gone to work and someone has bullied me. I can't forgive you because I expected all people to be nice. I expected people to be kind, considerate, and supportive. You have not met my expectation. That feels unforgivable. And so, how you made me feel is unforgivable because my expectation of you was that you would be this type of person and you've fallen short of that. I then can't forgive myself because I didn't see it coming, because I'm too naive. I think people are too good. I think people are better than they are. How could I be so stupid to not realize that these people were evil? I can't forgive myself for that. And so this is the two conflicting elements of forgiveness that we constantly have going on inside of us. Someone has done something to me and I can't forgive them, mostly because they've not met my expectation. I think to a degree we get to a point where like, ah, okay, you're human too, humans first. You will make decisions. If we're understanding that the things that other people do are projections of how they feel and how the lens of which they see the world, and it was never about me, it helps us to forgive. right? So the person who's always wanting to start an argument or knows what buttons to push to get you to that angry place is projection. It's not about you. They need a release for all of the issues and tension that they have, and they can't find any other space. And so they go to the person who's probably the kindest person in the world, and they push those three buttons to make sure that they get that opportunity to really release. So now I'm in a place of I can't forgive you because you've done this to me. But then also I can't forgive myself because I should have known you were like this. I shouldn't have responded in that way. I shouldn't have allowed you to see my vulnerability. And so then I'm in a place of blame and shame and guilt for something that was not even anything to do with me, but I've now taken on that burden. So how can I thrive if I'm carrying the weight? I love to use this suitcase analogy. When we go on a plane, we have a weight limit, right? And everything that we pack needs to accommodate us into the new destination that we're going into. Now, if I'm taking blame, unforgiveness, bitterness, shame, resentment, hurt, and all of these other feelings with me, it might feel like, yes, I need to carry this because I'm upset right now, and all of these people have done these things to me, and I just need to hold on to it. But I take that and then I get on the plane. And then I arrive at my destination, which is this place that I'm really trying to create for myself. This nice place where I'm with nice people and people who are supportive and encouraging, safe spaces that I can talk to and be vulnerable in. And when I open my suitcase, what do I have to help me with that? Blame, shame, guilt, anger, resentment, bitterness. All of the things I then project onto these people in a place of being guarded because I've not brought a single tool with me that will help me to operate in the space that I desire. Forgiveness is essential if you want to move forward in life. If I can see, and I think I touched on this on the last call that we had, this framework of ACT, right? Accept, create, transform. So I'll put this into context briefly. If I can accept that the world is going to do what the world is going to do, that people are going to do what they're going to do, and it's a reflection of what is happening on their side, not mine. I can accept that none of it is about me, and therefore I can detach myself and not be personally offended. Now, from that place, I can offer forgiveness, I can offer compassion, empathy, kindness, support, encourage that curiosity. What is going on in your life that this is how you're projecting yourself to me? How can I help you? And because I don't have all of that excess luggage, I can now say, right, my case is empty and it's full of love, kindness, compassion, and all of these things. So now I have that power. I can now look to that second step, which is create. What is it I want to create, either in the relationship, in the work environment, in my finances, in my physical environment, in my spiritual life? What is it that I want to create? Because yes is always going to be the answer. I can have everything because I'm not lugging all of this baggage with me. And so I'm now clear about the places I want to be in, not because I'm running away from anything, but because I genuinely have a desire to be in a place I know that I will thrive. And so I pack my case of all of this love and understanding, compassion, and all of that. There's a little bit of unforgiveness and a little bit of resentment in there, but ultimately it's all full of good stuff. And so I start this journey and I move into the transform step because the version of me now doesn't have the capacity to create what it is I want in the future. So I have to transform my habits. I have to transform my mindset. I have to transform my environment. I have to transform my relationships. I have to transform my systems, my processes, my thoughts, my feelings, my behaviors to be the person who can hold this vision that I've created for my life. Right. So who do I need to be an environment that I'm willing to talk to other people? I can't do that now because I'm guarded, right? I'm full of too much hurt. So how can I go and get a job tomorrow and be in a place where the culture is brilliant? I'm not ready for that because I still have some work to do. So as I'm transforming on this flight to my new destination, I arrive there and now I'm like, oh, great. I've got this love. I pull that out. I've got compassion, I pull that out because I know that every situation I'm in is never about me. And so I can operate differently. The lens through which I view other people in the world is different. And I'm not saying that all of this is perfect and it happens overnight, but it's definitely ACT is act, it's a verb. So if we are doing act, if we are managing our response to the world and managing our response to people, then we get to choose the life that we live by taking action. And if we're prioritizing our mental health so that we can thrive, we are always going to be moving in the direction that is most aligned to who we are and who we want to be. And it's no longer our responsibility to change the environments we're in. We'll go into the environments that we already know that we can thrive in. And for the organizations who are not catching up and are not making the change, that's their responsibility because we don't get to choose what they do. We can tell them, and it's important for us to tell them, this is what I'm facing, these are the challenges that I'm having. But if they don't listen, every other day that we now stay there, it's our choice to be in that environment. And so our choice now becomes ACT. Let me accept the situation. Let me create a new chapter in my life and let me transform so that I can be over there and live my best life.
Very inspiring. Thank you very much. Anthea, I would love to come back on you before we close this powerful episode and ask you what are you working on, if there is anything at all that you would like to share with us.
What am I working on? So many things. I think the crux of what I do at the moment is again going back to those three C's. Regardless of where you are in life and what it is that you are trying to do, you need to be reminded. Confidence is not something that you create; it's already in us. What we need to do is strip away all of the things that have prevented us from being our best selves. So I'm helping people, remind them of the confidence they have, get that clarity in what it is that they want, and the commitment to making the changes to do that. I'm running workshops, again, depending on what the client wants. Again, I recently did one on mental health awareness. So this is very in line with what we're doing today. I'm doing a lot of public speaking at the moment. So I'm working with people to improve their communication. Communication is the thing that is so important in terms of mental health. If we can't articulate or even understand what we feel, we won't get the help that we need. So really being able to find your story, communicate that to the world, and also help other people in doing that as well. So yeah, I'm a bit all over the place actually. You'll probably see me pop up in a few places, but mostly just being here as a place of encouragement, going into either organizations, schools, working with young people, mentoring to help support them and get that kickstart that they need in life to really own their decisions.
Mm. And if our listeners would like to know more about you or get in touch with you, where they can find you.
Best place is probably LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm really trying to post more. I'm really, really trying to post more. So LinkedIn, Anthea Armar, with Anthea Armar, one word, and then with Instagram it's Anthea.Armar. So I'm doing a lot more in poetry, interestingly enough, because the way of communicating, expressing certain things that I'm feeling and experiencing. So LinkedIn and Instagram are places where I'm trying to post more videos to do the inspiration, motivation, and also for people to see where I'm speaking at or what workshops and stuff I'm doing as well.
Fantastic. And as always, we will put these links in the description of today's episode. Very final question. If there was one take home message that you would love everybody to remember from this conversation, what that would be?
Everyone can choose to act. ACT, that honestly, accepting that you can change your response to what the world and other people throw at you, creating what it is that you want, and transforming into the person you need to be in order to have that. It all stems from you. Mental health and a lot of the challenges we have in life make us feel powerless. But this is a really liberating framework that reminds you that you have all of the power And so you manage your response to the world and therefore influence the outcomes that you have, which now gives you that power to really, take your life by the horns, so to speak, because life was not made to be endured; it was made to be explored.
Beautiful. Well, as we conclude this powerful episode, it's clear that prioritizing mental health in and out the workplace isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. And remember that your mental health matters and it deserves to be prioritized just as much as your physical health. By breaking the silence and engaging in open conversations about mental health, we can chip away the stigma and create workplaces where employees feel valued, supported, and empowered. And on this last point, I want to leave you with a quote from Kenneth Parkman, who said, "Silence about mental health almost always leads to suffering. It's time to break the silence, have open conversation, and create workplaces where everyone's mental health is valued and supported." Anthea, thank you very much for accepting once again an invitation to be on the show. I enjoyed, as the very first time, our conversation. And thank you for sharing so much about what you do and your mission with us. I truly enjoyed talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I've had fun.
Thank you. Well, we would love to know what you think about this topic. Are you or someone you know dealing with mental health challenges? And so we hope that this episode provides support, advice, and ideas on how to navigate these challenging situations. But if you need extra support, don't hesitate to search for help and also to check Anthea's website, her work, and to follow her on social media. You will find all the link in the description of today's episode. Hopefully not, but if you've been affected in any way by the topic we discussed today, as always, I invite you to seek professional help. Join me next time when we will continue exploring inspiring and challenging situations. Because remember, we are together in this journey. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this content, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit the notification bell and like this video. See you on the next one.